Live. Welcome back to Fertility Fridays. I'm so excited. We're back. We're live. It's all good. So excited to be here today. I am so. Whenever I was thinking about topics, I could not ignore the fact that we need to talk about the luteal phase, guys. It's a lot happening and a lot of discourse online. So I hope you'll find today's live helpful. I'm live on YouTube as well as on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, hey. If you're here on YouTube, hey, what's up? Hope your day is off to a great start. So if this is the first time you're going live with me, what I basically do is I share a email or a message that I've received from someone about a topic, and then we're going to just talk through it and break it down in real life. All right. So for starters, I'm going to tell you right now that this story is a little bit unhinged. All right. So hang in there with me. All right. Dear Dr. Yeni, I don't know if I need a hormone panel or a full blown exorcism. What? Every month, like clockwork, I hit day 21 in my cycle, and suddenly I hate everyone. Yep. I go from meal prepping and journaling to crying on the bathroom floor. Oh my gosh, because my boyfriend asked if I wanted Chipotle. I do want Chipotle. But how dare he say it like that? My boobs hurt, my skin breaks out like I'm 13 years old again. Oh wow. I can't stop eating snacks and that taste like cardboard. And I started spiraling about why I never finished that book I started in 2019. Oh my gosh. My doctor says it's normal PMS. I say it feels like my body is revolting. All right. This is a crazy story. And I've been temporarily possessed by a very emotional raccoon. Also, every month I convince myself I'm pregnant, even though I'm not trying. And I 100% Google implantation cramps versus hormonal psychosis like it's a casual Tuesday. Please help. Is there anything I can do to make this phase not feel like the end of the world every month? Oh my gosh. First of all, for whoever wrote this in, you are such a real one for keeping it honest. There's so many things we need to cover here, from feeling like the world is against you, to your boobs hurt, to your skin breaking out, to not wanting Chipotle, all the things. All right. So I just want to kind of just say, girl, I feel you. And hopefully in today's chat, we're going to be able to break down, because what you're describing, you're not crazy. You're describing classic luteal phase, luteal phase issues. So the tears, the rage, the phantom pregnancy symptoms, and the existential crisis over Chipotle, all of it can be traced back to what's happening hormonally between the time of ovulation to your period. All right, so we're going to talk through it. Also kind of wanted to say here that, what I'm hearing in your response is you are likely inflamed, and your body or your mind is basically responding in an overwhelmed fashion, and you likely need more rest, nourishment, and actual magnesium. So let's break it down, y'all. Let's have some fun and chat luteal phase. So if anybody is wondering, the luteal phase is the second half of your period. And so after you ovulate to the time you have another period is called your luteal phase. For most women, that's going to last around 12 to 14 days. And I say most women because even if you have like really long cycles, like even if your cycles are like 38 days or 40 days, like if you have irregularity, typically what's variable is the follicular phase, the first half. So the time between your period to your ovulation may be long. But for most women who don't have any like genetic disorders or deficiencies, they're going to have a luteal phase that lasts anywhere between 12 to 14 days. All right. So that's really important, because that's 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks of potential hormonal change. Okay. So this is why we need to like figure this out, because I would just keep it 100. I've been seeing stuff on Instagram or on TikTok, and people talking about like, yeah, like, like I feel like I can only function with society only 2 weeks of the month, and the other 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm not useful to anyone. Like, we are going to get a handle of this, because you need to be able to function all the weeks and all the days of your month. All right. So, yeah. So another thing is that the main character during the luteal phase, like the main hormone, is progesterone. And so and I'll say that progesterone is like it's it's a girl's best friend. It's the hormone that makes you feel calm. It's the hormone that regulates that emotional spike, and it's the hormone that can really carry you through your cycle and have a calm cycle. All right. So we care about progesterone. And I will just kind of throw this in there that a lot more women than we realize do have progesterone deficiency, but it may not become an issue until you're trying to get pregnant. All right. Now, when progesterone drops off too early in the cycle, estrogen pops up. And estrogen is what causes you to feel weepy, moody, anxious, bloated, and fatigued. So that's really important. So when we have too much estrogen too soon, right, and we don't have enough progesterone during that luteal phase, that's what's causing you to have those symptoms. Now, and it's not just PMS, because I want to be very clear, because you said in that letter, like she was saying how her doctor just said, oh, she just has PMS, so it's normal. Like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? What do you mean it's normal? I just have PCO. I just have just a random PMS. Like, what does PMS actually mean, right? And so it can actually signal like hormonal imbalance issues. It can signal inflammation issues. It can signal like all these issues that you're having can signal nutrition depletion or an underlying condition, or in some rare cases, though this is not as common, a condition or a symptom called estrogen dominant. So it's not all in your head. All right. So let's talk through some practical ways to sort through this luteal phase mess so that you can be an actual functioning human being those 12 to 14 days, okay? Because we cannot do this. So first of all, I need you to start tracking. So the first thing that you want to do is track what symptoms you're having, and you want to track when they're happening. So you could either use an app, a note app on your phone, or the note app on your phone, or you could use a cycle tracking app or a simple journal. Clues really good at this. Flow app. Thermometer is a favorite app of mine, especially when you're looking to track some of these like more symptom and emotional changes. Write down how you feel post ovulation, and you're going to want to track emotions, your mental, and how you feel physically. So this is really important. So there is a difference between how you are emotionally and mentally. So an emotional thing would be like, oh, I cried at the sight of this show today, or I got really weepy hearing, the news, right? But mental could be that led me to depression. So you want to track, the mental, the emotional, and the physical. All right. Then we're going to just go ahead and start supporting progesterone naturally. So even without you knowing whether or not you have a progesterone deficiency problem, you might want to go ahead and support it naturally to just really buttress some of these luteal phase issues. So what you do is you grab some B12 or B6 especially, and there's some B6 rich foods like bananas are B6 rich. Salmon is a really, really good B6 root. So this is how, I don't know if you guys have heard of this concept called seed cycling. This is where we eat certain foods and do certain things during certain phases of our cycle. So if you're in the luteal phase, like as soon as you finished or that you ovulated, this is where you might do like 3 or 4 days where you're eating like salmon, bananas, you're taking B6, get you a good high quality B complex, B6, B12 complex, right? This is where you're going in on that for like 3 or 4 days. And this should start to help support and increase your progesterone naturally. So this is really, really, really important. All right. So if you're able to do this already, you're probably going to give yourself a little bit of support through that lull of this age. Also, this is where you might want to also increase your protein in general. I always say you want to stick with lean meat. All right. So this is where you want to eat like a high quality steak just to give yourself a little bit of support during that initial post ovulation luteal phase. All right. Someone says, I agree. Thank you so much for agreeing with me here. My TikTok folks are waking up. All right. Another thing, the number 3 is honor the slowdown. So I know that it's hard, and especially me, I can totally understand because listen, I don't get to schedule my life around my period. And I don't get to schedule my life around my cycles, right? So if I'm in my luteal phase, but I got to get to work, I have to see patients, I have things to do, I have to show up, right? But I do think that one thing that's really important is if your body is signaling a slowdown, listen to it. All right. Because what we try to do is oftentimes work against the slowdown signaling. And what the slowdown signaling is likely saying that you're probably going to need more sleep during your luteal phase. So this is where you're going to have to like adjust your bedtime routine, probably try to tuck into bed at least an hour earlier so that you're entering REM sleep. Also, I'm going to give you guys just some free game here. Sleep hygiene is huge. Research tells us that we are able to enter REM between the hours of 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Really, 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 really key. So if you go to bed before 11 and you can wake up right at 6 or right after 6, you will likely have a higher quality sleep pattern. So really, really important. All right. Next thing I'll say is to cut inflammatory triggers. So main inflammatory triggers, and this is what gets a lot of us women in trouble, all right, is sugar. Because the thing that you crave the most when you're feeling like crap is sugar. Somebody's giving me hearts. Yeah. The thing that you crave the most when you feel the worst is sugar. And that's the thing that actually worsens your symptoms, ironically. And that sucks. So even though you might be desiring and reaching for high sugar foods, chocolate, the things that make you, what you actually want to do is you want to stray away from those high sugar foods and you want to do complex carbs and you want to make sure that you're leaning into the high protein. So some of my favorites are like those beef sticks, like Chomps are good. Natural Archer has some good beef sticks, high quality protein snacks that you can keep around. If you really, really can't curb the sugar, get you some dark chocolate because dark chocolate has a little bit of caffeine in it and it's not going to inflame you to the same level as if you eat like Twizzlers. Where are my licorice candy people at who like Twizzlers and who just have to eat like all the sugary crap during their luteal phase? All right. Another thing too is technically we want to stay away from caffeine because caffeine can be an inflammatory trigger, right? But I say dose it. So you might do like a decaf coffee, but you can have that dark chocolate, right? And this is where like it's hard for a lot of people who like need caffeine to wake up. So I say, start to titrate or reduce the amount of caffeine that you're having before your ovulation. So you can, if you're somebody that needs like 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, then you might want to do like 1 cup ahead of your ovulation. And then that way, by the time you are entering your luteal phase, you might have just that 1 cup, or you might have just like half of a cup for just a few days. Guys, this is just a few days, right? This is just to make sure that you're not literally raging and feeling like your body is in the pits of hell, all because you're going through your period. All right. Another very common inflammatory trigger is dairy. Dairy, 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 dairy. Oh my gosh, I cannot overemphasize this enough. Dairy is a huge inflammatory trigger. Now, I'll say this. I don't believe in elimination diets personally. Okay, this is me. Clinically, I don't really encourage my patients to be on full-on elimination diets. I say commit 80% of the time and then live your life 20% of the time because that's realistic. Let's be honest, like it's more realistic to get somebody to commit 80% of the time and then live the rest of the time than it is to really think that somebody can do all of this all the time, right? So this is really so this can be really helpful, especially if you are somebody that has to have creamer in your coffee, or you're someone that enjoys, a high protein yogurt, which is still good, like a high quality, high protein yogurt, or you just want some ice cream. Let's be honest. But what we're saying is that for the luteal phase, you want to cut down on the dairy because that can be an inflammatory trigger for you. All right. And so if you reduce these things, let's adjust, and you can kind of evaluate because some people will know like right away, like within the next day, that they are feeling so much better. But I have to say, they're probably the number one thing that gets people in trouble during the luteal phase is alcohol, because alcohol is a huge inflammatory trigger. Yeah. Alcohol is a huge inflammatory trigger, y'all. So what I recommend is to stay away from any alcohol at all during your luteal phase, or avoid it, especially during the beginning part of your luteal phase altogether. And if you absolutely maybe you're going to a social event or something's happening and you absolutely need a glass of something, let it be a really, really, high quality glass of dry red wine. All right. And that's going to have like the least amount of inflammatory triggers against your hormonal function. So, yeah. So, hopefully that helps for my people that are like literally thinking, am I going to give up everything? Well, you might just need to so that you don't have these mood swings. Okay. All right. And then of course, obviously, if all these things are like sounding doable to you, then if you and I kind of want to talk to this girl too, because listen, like homegirl is going through it. When she said that she feels like she is like, is she going through an exorcism or is she just like going through her period, right? Like this is kind of where you need to like pray through it and start to talk about like better habits and things that you can do and talk to your friends and get some support because it can be really, really hard. All right. Oh, I forgot to mention some supplements, all right, that you can definitely take during your luteal phase that can help. So I'm gonna give you like rapid fire supplements that are super, super helpful because I need to give the girlies what they really want. I know the girls love a good supplement stack to help them out. All right. So here are my what I call my Dr. Yeni's go-to luteal phase supplement support list. All right. Magnesium. All right. My personal favorite and what I put most of my patients on who have luteal phase issues is magnesium citrate. All right. So some common ones are like the calm version or the calm magnesium. You want something that you is highly soluble. So I don't recommend taking magnesium in a pill form. I recommend taking it in a powder form, putting it in like a hot water and drink it as tea before bed. All right. It's going to reduce irritability, bloating, breast tenderness, okay, and anxiety. Huge, huge, huge. You want to take at least 200 to 400 milligrams, and you want that to be at night. All right. I will say glycinate, magnesium glycinate, if you can get your hands on both glycinate and citrate, can be very helpful because magnesium glycinate can be great for mood and sleep as well. All right. Fun fact, magnesium in the body helps to regulate progesterone. All right. And calm down your nervous system. So this is your friend. Okay. I think every woman should be on magnesium, to be honest, right? Especially magnesium citrate. All right. Vitamin B6, which I already talked about. Vitamin B6 supports progesterone support, helps with mood swings. And during your luteal phase, you want to make sure you're having at least 50 to 100 milligrams of it. All right. Because when you want to cry your sock inside out, magnesium is going to help to make sure that you're not having a mental breakdown. All right. So huge, huge, huge help during your luteal phase, especially. All right, one personal favorite is something called chasteberry. So I've actually been piloting this myself. I've been trying chasteberry, I've been trying a brand called Vitex, and it's actually really good. But chasteberry naturally supports your luteal phase, hormone balance, and actually lengthens short cycles. So if you're somebody that has like really trace bleeding, like 1 or 2 days of bleeding, chasteberry is going to help to make sure that you're actually having a healthy period because that's another thing. Your period should be less than 1 or 2 days. I know it's convenient, it's easy, but if you are in your mid 20s or even in your early 30s and you're having such a short period like that, it could be telling that there's something else going on, especially if it's not always been that way. For chasteberry, you want to have anywhere between 400 to 1,000 milligrams daily. And it's best, you're going to see the results if you take it consistently for 3 months. So there is a little bit of delayed gratification there. All right. So I'm just going to kind of forewarn you that chasteberry is going to want to say, going to be one of those things that you have to trust the process to see the results. And then evening primrose oil can be helpful too. I know evening primrose oil is better known in the birth community, but it's known to reduce breast tenderness, bloating, and hormonal acne. Side note, if the moment you find that you're pregnant, stop using evening primrose oil. You only want to use it at the tail end of the pregnancy. But for the luteal phase specifically, it can help, with tenderness, bloating. And this is really for the beauty forward girl with hormonal breakouts. Like if you're somebody that has to do a lot of skin prep, maybe you're showing up for events and you cannot afford to have like these random hormonal breakouts, chase or evening primrose oil is going to really help to mitigate that. All right. Omega-3s are really helpful too. They help with anti-inflammation. They can support your mood and help regulate your cramps. Also, that I recommend a high dose of that, like anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day with food. It works way better with food. But you can get a lot of omega-3s as well, just if you're eating like a high quality salmon. Um, and so just a little bit of a bonus in case you're really somebody that's struggling with like cortisol issues, like stress hormone issues, and you're dealing with like high levels of psychosis during the luteal phase, ashwagandha, zinc, and probiotics. Take all three. Ashwagandha, all right. Ashwagandha is going to help to regulate that cortisol and that mood. Okay, zinc is going to help the progesterone to work better and make sure that you have some skin clarity. And then the probiotics are going to help to make sure that your gut is healthy, all right? Because gut health, we know gut health equals hormone health. Gut health equals hormone health. All right. So I hope that was helpful. If you are going through your luteal phase and you're like my girl who was going through it, I hope that was helpful. All right. So I did have another luteal phase story or message come through, and I just really have to share this because this is like just something that I feel like a lot of people are going through. So, all right. Dear Dr. Yeni, I just want to know why my life falls apart like a Greek tragedy. Like a Greek tragedy every 28 days. Last week I was fine, drinking green juice, doing Pilates, responding to emails like a professional. Then ovulation ended and suddenly, boom, I hate everyone. My genes betrayed me and I stopped watching a TikTok about a dog adoption. I told my boss I quit in my head. Okay, whew, I got scared. I'm like, not as quitting our jobs because of the luteal phase. Told my boyfriend we need to talk for no reason and told myself I was a failure again. Also, every single month, I somehow convince myself I'm pregnant. I start Googling symptoms like I'm my own OB. Is being irrational a pregnancy symptom? My boobs hurt, my brain doesn't work, and my spirit feels like it's in exile. Oh man, that is so rough, girl. All right. My spirit feels like it's in exile. But by the time my period starts, I'm back to normal and confused. What is this madness and why do I turn into an unrecognizable human every single month? Is there anything I can do besides write it out with heating pads and repentance? Oh my gosh, that is so real. So I kind of wanted to share that because similar to our girl before, like these really extreme symptoms can make you feel like you're crazy. You are experiencing 100% textbook luteal phase chaos, but it's not normal. And I just want to lean in here that hopefully whatever you heard earlier today has helped to equip you already, right? But, I do want to encourage you that, what you're likely going through is, from what it's sounding, low progesterone, high cortisol, and some estrogen increase early on in your period. So make sure that you follow what I had just recommended with increasing your magnesium intake, increasing your omega-3s, and then also high cortisol. High cortisol, for anyone that doesn't know, cortisol is a stress hormone and can actually spike up quite high and complicate the luteal phase, making your symptoms more severe. So this is where, like, I know that during your follicular phase, you probably do a lot of cardio, you're doing a lot of Pilates, you're increasing a lot of your movement. This is where, like, probably around the time of ovulation, you want to start doing some like long hot girl walks, consider doing some weightlifting, skip out on the Pilates class until towards the end of your luteal phase when things are a little bit more regulated. And that should help to impact your cortisol level. And of course, if you sleep well, if you're sleeping better, your cortisol level, your stress hormones will do better as well. So hang in there, girl. And I'm going to say a prayer. I say a prayer for anyone who's going through luteal phase madness, but hopefully you're going to follow these tips and you're going to get what you need. And this was helpful. But yeah, I had some fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this live. I'm about to go hop into my day and get to work. But if you ever have any questions about, hormones, fertility, whatever, I'm always here. I got a type form that you can always submit your questions and stories and letters like this anonymously so that we could talk. And I'm going to be live again next Friday. Woohoo! Next Friday, I will be live and I'm so excited because I think next week, I want to talk about like ovulation and anxiety. I don't know. We'll see. It always comes to me like, talking to patients and stuff. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to do a live about that. So anyway, I will catch you guys on the next Fertility Fridays. In the meantime, make sure you follow all my socials and check out the Prolific Collective. For my TikTok folks, thanks for joining me. All right, see you guys later. Bye.